The next function we'll be looking at is the average function. The average function calculates the average, which is also known as arithmetic mean. It is written as equal to average. It adds the range and divides it by number of observations. You might be familiar with average. However, if you are not, we're going to look deeply into average. Take a look at this theoretical example. The average of 5, 6, 7 is 6. How did we get this 6? The observations are 5, 6, and 7. The sum of the observations is 18. So 5 plus 6 plus 7 is 18. Now, how is the average of these three numbers 6? 18 divided by 3, which is the number of the observation, is equal to 6. So you count 1, 2, 3. This is the numbers of observation. So the sum of the numbers divided by the sum of the observation gives us the average. That is how we get the answer 6. Take note of something. The average function ignores cells with text. We're going to look at this practically with examples. Let's use this data to understand the average. Just as explained, the average function calculates the average. For example, if we want to get the average salary in this data, you simply type your equal sign, then average, or you select the range, close the brackets, and enter. So the average salary for this employee data is 48,555. We can also apply the average for age. If we want to get the average age of this employee, select the cell, close the brackets, so the average age is 32. You can also manually input figures to get the average. For example, if you want to get the average of, let's say, 4 numbers, you can type in the numbers, separate them with comma. And you close the bracket and you type enter. So the average of that number is 4.5. The next function we'll look at is the Averageif function. The Averageif calculates the average of values in a range that meets a condition. Recall the last lesson where we discussed SUMIF. It's similar to Averageif. The only difference is that in sum, we are summing up numbers. In average, we are taking the average if it met this condition. The syntax of the Averageif is you start by typing the equal to Averageif, open brackets. Now inside the brackets, you put the range, followed by the criteria and the average range. This looks very similar to the SUMIF syntax. The condition in this case is referred to as the criteria. And the criteria can be things like if a number is less than another number, if a number is greater than another number, or the number or the text is equal to something. While the average range is where the function calculates the average. So after all the if statements, after selecting the range, now the average range is where the function will calculate the average. That's where the calculation is going to take place. Let's take a look at this example. Let's look for the average salary of an accountant in this data. So we start by typing our average if function. Now average if, this is the range. Now what's the criteria? The criteria is accountant. Now this is the range. This is what we're going to get the average after the if statement. So the average salary of accountant is 44,500. Let's try this again with the age. Let's try to get the average age of the female in this organization. So we start by typing our average if function. What is the range? The range is the gender. Now inside the gender, what's the criteria? The criteria is female. And the average range is what we are calculating, which is the age. The average age of female in this organization is 31. The next function is Averageifs function. The Averageifs function allows you to calculate the average of a range based on multiple criteria. The difference between the average if and the average if is that the average allows you to calculate based on one condition, while the average ifs, you can calculate the average based on multiple conditions. The syntax of average ifs is this. You start by typing your average ifs function. In brackets, you have the average range. That's where the calculation is going to take place, which is the numbers that you're trying to get the average of. The criteria range and the criteria. Because we can have multiple conditions, the list goes on and on. You can have more than one criteria. The conditions are referred to as the criteria 1, 2, and so on, which can be things like if a number is less than another number, if a number is greater than another number, or a number is equal to something. The criteria range 1, criteria range 2 are the ranges where the function checks for the conditions. So recall for the average if, we have the criteria and we have the range. But in this case, because average ifs accept multiple conditions, hence we can have more than one criteria range. While the average range is where the function calculates the average. Let's take a look at Averageifs. Let's try to get the average salary of salesmen that are 30 years and above. Try to understand the question. First, we are trying to get the average salary of the first criteria is the job title, which is the salesman, and the second criteria is the age. We're trying to get the average salary of salesmen that are 30 years and above. Now let's try that. Equal to average if, and you select the average range because this is where the calculation is going to take place. This is the average we're trying to get, the average of the salary. So that's our range. What's our first criteria? We're looking for the job title, which are the salesmen. So we select the job title column first. Now, what are we looking for inside the job title? We are looking for the salesman. The next criteria is the age. We are looking for salesmen who are 30 and above. We're trying to know, okay, what is the average salary for salesman that is 30 years and above? Remember to always put your condition a condition you are typing in quotation. So greater or equal to 30, close your quotation, now close your statement. So the average salary of the salesman that are 30 years and above is 46,500. The major difference between average and Averageifs is average takes just one condition, while Averageifs take multiple conditions. The average on its own simply calculates the average of the values given to it. Try out other examples and see if you will be able to understand the Averageifs, and Averageifs. Try to practice this yourself and see if you understand the difference between these three functions.